So this is the Karen Mitches podcast, and we're here with George Rivard.
Hello to folks at home.
So George, you just got here from your kitchen job.
Yes, I was working kitchen, heating food up, cooling food down, cutting food, putting food in ovens, taking food out of ovens. Yeah.
Nice. So have you worked in kitchens a long time?
Yep. My first job, I would have been, oh my gosh, 15, A&W, and then I've worked in kitchens ever since.
Nice.
And some other stuff, but kitchens, yeah, it's okay. Pays the bills.
Nice.
Have you ever worked in a kitchen?
I have never worked in a kitchen.
Like ever worked like service at all?
Serving? I've worked in a restaurant, but not kitchen.
What restaurant?
I worked at an Asian fusion place called The Bowl.
Oh, sick. Yeah, it's cool. I don't know. I partly the reason I got into cooking is because I did like 1/4 of a liberal arts degree, and then because I was 17, and then I went and danced in Vancouver and did a bunch of stuff. So
wait, what?
You didn't know that?
No.
I still do, but I used to be like a breaker, like a b-boy.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
Yeah. So like when I was like 17, we went and danced at Vancouver Olympics and stuff, and then we like battled in Europe and the States and stuff. And
what was your breakdancing crew called?
Groundwork Sessions.
I love it.
They're still called that. We still exist. One of my boys is probably Riley. You're one of the best in the world. Okay,
yay, Riley.
Yeah, and Jordan and Nick. You're good too. Alex, you're good too. Ben and I, we're doing our best.
Shout out breakdancing crew.
Yeah.
I lived in Vancouver during the Olympics.
Oh shoot.
I wonder if we ever crossed paths.
Well, if you saw, you would have probably been 22.
28 plus.
So I was 17. I was 17. I was 17. I was 17. Yeah, I was still in grade 12, and we like went down there and danced at like BC Place, danced at a bunch of places. The Vancouver Olympics was cool in some ways. It was kind of like Canada Land. Everybody was really nice.
I loved
for that
it.
2 weeks, everybody was just like, woo.
It gave me the wrong impression of people.
Oh yeah. Vancouver. Then it went right back to Vancouver being like, I'm allowed to swear on this podcast, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because Vancouver, I lived there too afterwards, and Vancouver's one of those things. If you don't have friends, you're not making friends in Vancouver. It's very hard. That city is weird and cold, and it feels kind of like your neighborhood.
Like my neighborhood.
Has the vibe.
Oh.
Kind of like, not in a bad way. Okay, but it's like, I don't know. It seems small now when I go back there. I live in Toronto.
I haven't been back since I lived there. But I find, it was weird. I worked as a bank teller, and I kind of just made friends with other women from work who were from other places. And there was different ages. It was weird. It was you couldn't, I didn't make friends easily there.
Now, this would be cool. Now, this is an experiment I always think about. Take the city of Toronto. It's still Toronto. It still has it's multiculturalism, everything. It's just as big. But instead of it being geographically on Lake Ontario, we move it to Vancouver. And that's the coolest city in the world.
Toronto on the ocean?
Toronto on the ocean, and there's a ski hill, and it's beautiful. Imagine that.
My
that
God.
Would be the best city in the world. That would literally be the best city.
That would literally be the best city in the world. It's everyone, but it's people only went to out west to be alone. And so I don't even think, it's not like people are mean. They're just disengaged.
And they're kind of the Yukon is what BC thinks it is. They think they're so cool and granola, but we're better up north and to the west of it.
What is your town called in the Yukon?
Whitehorse.
So it's how many people?
I think when I was growing up it was 35. I think it's 40,000 now.
But it's it's weird. That's very small, but it would be the big city.
Yeah, it's a big city, and I grew up 20 minutes out, like 20 highway minutes out. So I live far from the city. I grew up on like an acreage, and it's small. It's funny because Whitehorse seems small, and now because I live in Toronto, if I go to Kingston, I think Kingston's small, but Kingston has like 150,000 people.
Yeah.
It is more people than the whole Yukon.
Oh shit.
The whole Yukon is like 40,000, 42,000 for the whole province, like the whole territory.
Yeah.
And it seems small. I'm like, oh, this is a small little town. Or like even like Winnipeg seems small, even though Winnipeg is huge. Or like Brampton, but Brampton is actually bigger than Winnipeg, but that's besides the point.
So for your whole adult life, have you been out of the Yukon?
Yeah, I moved out of the Yukon. I've been in Toronto 10 years this year. So I've like lived in Toronto. People are always like, when they bring me up as from the Yukon, I do it because it's my brand, I guess. But like,
yeah,
I've lived in Toronto almost more. The only other place I've lived in is the Yukon. I moved there 95, so 95 to 2015 is 20 years. So like 1/3 of my life I've been here.
Wow. When you go home, are people like, wow, George, you're different now? Not
really. I guess I'm like more the same. I'm kind of like a hometown hero. I get that seems like very braggadocious to say. I am. It is good to go home. The one thing I do love about doing stand up at home is that, have you ever noticed? So you go on stage, Karen, right? You go on stage, and one of the first things you have to do is to get people to know who you are, because it's Toronto and no one knows who anybody is.
Yeah.
So in the Yukon, I don't have to do that.
People just get you.
So I don't have to. I can just be in that sense.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm like a super famous comedian, where like I can be like, you know my dad, and everybody's like, yeah, we know your dad. Yeah, it's like I can do that. I don't have to like do any like backstory or things.
Yeah.
So it's great for that. And I started stand up in the Yukon too as well.
Was that weird? Like, just that people knew you?
No, I've always like done something performance-y. I've always like done artsy stuff, right? So it was great. Oh, it was bad when I don't like to say I'm bad. I don't like to say people are bad when they're starting out. They're just new. I don't, because it's weird art when people are like, oh, that person sucks. I'm like, well, are they new? They're like, yeah. I'm like, well, oh.
Yeah, it's relative.
Yeah, we're not. Just like, once again, it's not like we're. It's not, you can't actually sometimes you quantify it, but then like, and it's also just kind of mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess things you that are new, like,
especially because I was new in front of you, so that makes me feel.
Yeah, was it Nothing Fancy? Yes, I remember.
So I did my first mic in like the spring, and then I think actually within the first month I made it over to Nothing Fancy, and.
So why?
And you were hosting, and so like my initial understanding of, I felt like that first spring and summer that I was in comedy, that Nothing Fancy, I thought that was like the center of it.
And also, it was a weird. Rest in peace, Nothing Fancy. Nothing Fancy is not a good barometer. That open mic was not a good barometer for how stand up like open mics can be. They can be the most demoralizing, like. Weird, incel-y guy places.
Yeah, that was a good one. I had a lot of fun there. Sometimes it was scary because it was a full basement. And sometimes I was like, I don't trust people here not to accidentally set the place on fire.
Oh, yeah. And they tell people to move out of the exits. That was crazy. So why did you start stand-up?
Okay, so I was doing like an improv class at Second City just to kind of like get myself out of the house after the pandemic and start like redeveloping my social skills. And then I was like, start taking more classes there. And I had this idea that I was going to write a screenplay. And then I thought, you know what, I'm going to take this stand-up class to get better at joke writing, to put jokes in my screenplay. I didn't actually think I'd like it.
Oh, shit, that's bad. I hate when people say they like stand-up. I'm like, oh, there's a lot of times ahead. No, it's crazy. It's cool. It's cool. And you came to stand up like later too.
Yeah, I was 42 the first time I did a mic.
You look good.
Thank you.
Wow. Like it's crazy because but then also people come to things at different ages. It's not like a sport in the sense that like
yeah, like everyone has to come in at 5 years old and then like hit these milestones.
oh yeah, if you don't hit them, you're done. No, it's like or like how you'll be like Janelle Niles was like 28, I think, in the last Olympics, and it's like she's so old, and I'm just like, or I'm getting to the age now where I'm seeing like football players, and they're like, he's a veteran. I'm like, he's 2 years younger than me.
Yeah, I can remember going to see a ballet when I was a kid, and it was like Karen Kane was the ballerina, and she was in her 40s, and they were like, I can't believe she's dancing in her 40s, and then she retired.
Ballet dancers don't make that much money.
It's so sad. That to me, I love dance, every kind of dance, but especially like ballet and Cirque du Soleil. And they still have, you always hear about those performers having no money, lots of injury.
Oh yeah, I have my friend and roommate, he's a ballet dancer, and it's just like, and it's so intense. Like comedy's intense, but I don't think it's ballet intense. I don't think it's like no one looks at you on I guess they do, but no one's like, hey, your body type's wrong, you're not gonna get the part just because you're body. We don't care how good you are, like you're just not gonna get it. No one ever does that in stand-up. They might think it.
Yeah, stand-up is toxic, but ballet is like toxic plus the highest level of discipline. And
then also like you're not making that much money.
Yeah, like at least some people in stand-up will get famous and rich. Like,
yeah,
I think with ballet, like you still have to marry rich.
Oh, that's what, like, it's one of those things. It's also one of those like, it's like a class signifier in the sense that to do it you have to be rich or be
yeah.
So you can't just do it. It's like how some take a sport like polo. Yes, anybody can do polo, but can anybody really?
Yeah, like who's riding horses growing up?
Riding horses to that skill, and then to have a couple horses, and then to have like the membership, and then to pay for the tack, all the stuff, and and then I'm sure there's probably like, who knows? I don't even know what polo stuff costs.
Yeah,
like it's not something I've done. Even just like Western stuff, like saddles and all that stuff is so expensive. And like I guess like that's why stand-up's beautiful in the sense that because there's such a low barrier to entry.
Western horseback riding is kind of like hockey, where it seems blue collar, but if you're doing it at a high level, your parents spent money.
Oh yeah, all horse riding, unless you're like an outfitter or like you have a job where you're like warming up the horses at like but like every person, one of the people in the Olympics for dressage, she's like also like a billionaire. like and like
yes,
when they had Air Horse One, like how much does that cost?
Yeah, and like the number of like royal people who have like kids in horseback riding, it just seems like they're, if you put them in a regular sport, they disappear in the crowd of everyone else, but it's only rich people.
But it's funny, it's also bleeding into other sports now where like hockey players, hockey's always been expensive, but like you're not basketball now, like you look at like the teams and like there's the sons of NBA players or like college basketball players and the daughters of NBA players, because like if you want to do something, chances are you do what your parents do. That's like the whole idea of like when we look back at like say something like the guild system in the Middle Ages and like early modern period where it's like, well, I couldn't do what my parents do. I'm like, you probably will end up doing what your parents do. It's only now that it's weird to not do what your parents do. Like,
and when you, I don't know, like I think once a sport becomes big and popular and people are making money in it, then you get all these like camps and programs. And so even like basketball isn't expensive. It's just a ball and running shoes. But then if everyone's going to these elite programs and paying for that and you can't pay for it, you're not going to level up with the other kids.
Oh yeah. And it's like, even like that's why I think people love the field sports and stuff so well, because it's still the true expression. Like you can only buy so much for your shoes and stuff for like to be a better sprinter. Like it's the only place where a country like Jamaica can beat the States. Or like, and you'd be like, or Ethiopia and all these countries, and I think we like it. And it's also the one thing where like I grew up doing gymnastics, so I can watch gymnastics and be like, I know how hard that is, how much, but like, yeah, there's no connect. But like sprinting, we all can run. We all know how much faster Usain Bolt is to us. It's not, there's no like illusion, like
you're not confused about it.
You're not like, oh, when people are like, oh, if I trained in this for a couple of years. No, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You're like,
and everybody ran a race when they were a kid.
Yeah,
it's not
and they had the time.
So many things, like people didn't learn how to do it. I've been on a horse once in grade 7. Like, I don't know what my horse abilities might have been, but I know my running abilities weren't like the top kid in grade 6, so I don't have some weird idea like I might be able to pull it off.
What's your sport? What sports do you do?
The only like organized sport I ever played reasonably well was basketball, but a lot of that was because my sisters liked basketball and my dad wanted me to play a sport because it was supposed to be healthy for girls. But I just always loved dance.
Are you 1, 2, 3, like 3 of you?
And a brother.
Older, younger, the brother?
The brother's the second oldest,
okay.
and I'm the youngest.
Well, you have siblings that are grown ass adults.
We're all
What, like, I always.
No, but like we're close in age.
Oh, you're close in age. Okay,
yeah.
Okay. It's not like, it's always funny when like someone like my age would be like, yeah, my sister's like 50. I'm like, oh,
yeah. Well, yeah. My sister will be 50 soon, but so will I.
It's fine. It's like.
Okay, wait. I want to talk more about your athleticism because this is way better. You do gymnastics, breakdancing, and skateboarding.
I did gymnastics. It was like my first like sport that I did, and then
as a kid.
Yeah, until I was like 13, and then I started dancing, and then I've always skateboarded since I was gonna picking that up. And then I did skateboarding and I downhill ski and stuff. Amazing. And the sports that I don't like though, I don't give a fuck who's on this. Rock climbing, fuck you guys. Are you a rock climber?
No.
It wouldn't surprise me. It's not. It's mainly the men in rock climbing. I don't know what it is.
I dated a rock climber.
They're a type of guy. I don't know what it is. It's this type of. It's like on the face of it. And Dan, you're amazing. I know you rock climb, but like, something about it. It attracts a certain type of like person who's athletic, but like, it's kind of like. I think it also attracts tech bros. It's one of those things where they're like, I'm using my mind and my strength, and it's like cool.
I don't know. I don't like any sport that. I just like all the really beautiful ones. Like, I basically don't like sports. I just like.
You just like people doing art.
Dance, gymnastics, like things that are beautiful to watch.
You might like skateboarding.
I don't want to skateboard. Well, no. Like, I don't want to fall off a skateboard, but I do like watching skateboarding. Yeah, skateboarding's it's cool like that. Amazing.
Yeah, skating's the best. And then so I did that, and so I have an athletic family. Like it's my sister did gymnastics at like a high level.
Oh my god.
Like at the national level, and my other sister played soccer really well, and I'm kind of like the odd one out actually in my family. So it's like I have 2 sisters, right? And they're like in like STEM fields. Like one's a massage therapist, the other one's like she just got her master's in occupational therapy. Like they do that.
Oh, nice.
And then my mom and my dad's like a scientist. Like he is like wildlife tech, does like animal studies and all that stuff. They're all like science people.
Yeah.
And then like my mom is like a BFA, and I like do comedy and art and stuff. And
yeah.
We're like those people. So we're the people in our house that are like reading the books and doing the things and all that stuff.
I love it.
Yeah. So like I blame my mother for getting me into like the arts. Everybody thinks it's cool to have like a mom that like understands the arts until like she's like critiquing you and the critiques are valid. And it's like,
oh, like how would she critique you?
Like, oh, you look tired. You're doing that like I remember one time I was on stage. I was doing it was a musical, and she's like, you're up there making like you want us to like you.
Oh no.
Stop trying to be, like in improv when you try to be funny and it ruins it.
Yeah.
She know that stuff. Like, but then also she's very supportive of like my comedy though.
Yeah. Yeah. Because for a lot of people they can't pursue it because they're sort of like maligned for it, or they have a worse feel of fear because they're like,
I'll say anything in front of my parents.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck. If you can't say it in front of your parents. Also, there's very few things that I couldn't say in front of my parents. And I'm edgy. I don't know if I'm edgy, but I'm not like, it's nothing I would, if I can't say something in front of my mom and dad, and it's not like something like, they don't mind like me being like, I was fucking this chick. They don't care about that stuff.
Yeah.
It'd be like if I was like saying like a rape joke or something. So
yeah.
if I was doing that, they'd be like, what the fuck? And then and I wouldn't say that in front of them, so I'm not gonna say it. Also, so stuff like that. If I'm writing a joke that my mom wouldn't like, it's usually like, why am I writing a joke like this? I should probably think about that. It's not because like I'm gonna upset my mom by saying a dirty word. She doesn't get upset by stuff like that. Like, it's just be like, what the fuck am I doing? Yeah,
that's a good barometer to have. I think though, one of the things I think is, a lot of people in stand-up have really bad moms, and that's why they don't know what's appropriate.
I get, what's the thing when people are like, all these people here, I'm like, my mom's pretty cool. My parents are pretty cool. I don't obviously I was a teenager and you don't like your parents, but I was literally thinking how much of a privilege is. I've never been like scared of my parents. I fucked up a couple times. Like the reason I don't drink, I've fucked up a couple times. When I decided to get like sober, I was scared to phone my parents.
Yeah.
I was like, I can phone my parents.
Yeah.
And some people don't have that. And then it must be even worse if your parents give you everything like materially, but they don't give you that because parents are like, we gave you everything. It's like, well, you got to give kids more than that.
Yeah. I think it's like a lot of what I think, it's like you have to trust your kids to like, I don't know, make mistakes and like go their own way in life. And some people are very like, I don't know, like dependent on someone else's approval because they didn't sort of like learn to take.
And there's things where like I'll phone, like I've made decisions that my parents like. There's still stuff my mom doesn't like. My mom doesn't like that I have a big titty black woman tattooed on me. She doesn't like that shit. But like most of the things, like the stand-up things, and some jokes she's like, write your smart jokes, because I do have like, sometimes I do like silly like jokes, but then I'll be like, oh, this one's critiquing this, and yeah, and she likes those ones. My dad's actually more squeamish than my mom is, which is hilarious.
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
It's funny. Like if we were watching a movie and there was like a sex scene, my dad would be more uncomfortable than my mom is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like is that something, do you think, with like artier people are more like?
Yeah, she's like, yeah, it takes a lot, and also she like worked in like a frontline field. She's like, it's like, and also I think you get to a certain age, if you've been out in the world, things stop phasing. People are always like scared, and they'll be like, oh, there's an old person here. I'm like,
old people know stuff.
They've seen the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is weird though. Like, I do think as you get older, people, unless you're doing poorly in life, like people sort of start to think like you don't know that the other side of life exists.
Mm-hmm. Well, some people don't, but that's a whole other conversation. But
yeah.
But most people they know, they've seen it. It's like how,
like the whole thing with like a nice old lady. Like all old ladies are just older versions of young ladies. It's all the same people, but somehow like we think old ladies haven't heard swear words or like don't know about sex crimes and murder.
They all know. It's probably worse for them. They grew up in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Like it's like they know. Yeah. They know. They're very aware. Like your grandmother's being cream pied.
Someone had to say it.
Like this. Your grandparents fucked. That's why you're here. Like it's everybody's just like, oh, it's like, okay, like everybody's just it's always silly. And like, what's actually worse? So there's this comic I know, and he's in Australia now, but I met him in the program, but he is saying, because he's been to jail, and when he tells, it's all in his act, right? He used to rob banks. And he tells audiences that he says that people like 40 and up like aren't as scared because it wasn't like he was robbing banks. He was just robbing it to get dry. Like it was, and they are like more understanding. They're like, oh, I can see how life could drive you to that. They're not like, oh my gosh, like it's the 20-year-olds and stuff that are like, oh, he's a bank robber. It's like, no, but you get to a certain age, you're like, you might not do it, but you could. Now I'm like, oh, I can see how someone might rob a bank.
Yeah,
it's not like a unfathomable thing. The older you get.
Yeah, like kind of like when you're younger, you're like you think you're this type of person or that type of person. And the older you get, more you see like people move through different things.
And realize that people can have a bad day. Like you have, or like, have you been watching that guy that gunned down that house CEO?
Oh fuck! And everybody, it's all I think about. It's and all everybody's I think
just,
about.
And all the United States is like, yeah, we understand. Like no,
yeah, everyone like, empathized with the shooter.
They're like, yeah, he's literally killed probably 1 million, like through his actions as a CEO, he's killed 1 million people.
So someone said to me, because we were at a mic the other night and everyone was riffing on it, and this one guy said he didn't think it would be a watershed moment.
Well, it just takes a lot.
Like it wouldn't change anything.
Well, it did in the sense that like Elon Musk was bringing his kid to like a board meeting as like a meat shield. Like, why else would you bring your... Because the thing is, not to... I don't want to say that like a CEO at that level, they're not... They may be unaware, but they're not an idiot. And they deep down, they know that they're there because of luck, most of all.
Yeah.
Born to the right person, And they also know what they're doing is evil. Like no one no one should make that much money when everybody's just like, oh well, nah. It's like I don't know if you're in a management position at work or anything.
No.
But have you ever had it when your manager's not there and the work somehow still gets done? you're like, oh no, we figured it out. We could figure it out. It's like, oh no, really? You decided to? This is a gross like oversimplification, but it's like, oh, you thought to like lay off a bunch of people and move those jobs overseas. How did you? Oh my gosh, you needed a MBA for that? Why?
But do you think it's because I wasn't really thinking about it in terms of just like corporate America. I was thinking about it more specifically with private healthcare being a problem. Or do you think they'll just, because I mean they didn't get rid of guns, even though they've had what should have been watershed moments with gun violence.
This is my like very armchair like critique of it. When it comes down to it, right? Yeah, the reason it is what it is because have you heard of the Citizens United ruling in the Supreme Court?
No.
Well, the Supreme Court, once again, I'm paraphrasing, pretty much said that money is free speech and that you can't cap campaign donations. So you can cap like individual, but if it comes from a super PAC, you can give as much as you want to a politician. So when that happened, this is in the States. We have better campaign financing laws. They're not great, but we have better campaign financing laws. So when that happened, individuals such as billionaires, CEOs, companies could just give a politician as much money as they wanted. And they say it's not bribery, but say, Karen, I give you $1 million. You're gonna answer my calls. You're gonna. I don't give a shit. You're on an open mic. If I give you $1 million, I'm phoning you. You're answering my calls, and I'd be like, we're having lunch tomorrow at 12. You'd be like, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with that being, when that happened, they poured a bunch of money, and so the lobbyist special interest groups. So the answer, will it change anything? No, because the health insurance companies have their lobbyists. They pay politicians through their campaign finances so they can win. It's like, hey, and then after they get out of politics, they get a cushy job. Part of the reason Obama, when he did his Obamacare, he didn't just do single payer. Instead, he made it so you had to be on insurance. Right? Mm-hmm. So at least that way, the people that were paying his fine, because one of his donors are the insurance companies, would keep on paying him. So because one of the things is ad buys cost a lot of money. Like it's pretty much the person gets to a certain extent, you can tell who's going to win by who gets more money in the campaign.
So basically what you're saying is the whole system is set up, it can't help but be private healthcare in America for forever.
Because it's going to make more money unless we get rid of campaign finance laws in the States. And also the people that are making the laws that would actually change it are getting paid by the people that have no interest in it changing. And in fact, it's getting worse, right?
And there's a conservative Supreme Court.
Yes, a conservative Supreme Court. But the one thing that will happen, that it has happened though, is that it has made people across left or right realize that they do have, out of all the things, they're both getting fucked by the healthcare. Interesting, right? Like in Canada, they're trying to privatize it, and people like to say that like, oh, it's bad. It's not bad. We don't like. You have to wait. I mean, have you tried going to South Africa? Try going to like.
And the idea that you get a lot of conservative politicians who don't spend money well and cut money out of it and then go, oh, it doesn't work, we should get rid of it.
Well, that's the classic like way how they got companies. It happened with Canadian Airlines, happened with the rail company. What you do is that you cut a bunch of things, make it run inefficiently, show that it's not turning a profit. They're trying to do it to Canada Post, where they cut it and then they sell it to one of their friends, like once removed. That's how Canadian Airlines became Air Canada, even though it was a crown corporation. And it's fucked that we can do that, right? Because there's some things that I think that this is where I like when people ask me like I'm a lefty, stuff like that, where like you shouldn't own things that everybody has. Like I personally think internet, oil, all Canada's resources should be nationalized. Now, would I ever win if I ran on Prime Minister's that? No, they would say some like, look at this, it's just him.
Do you think you'll ever run for office?
You know, it's funny that they say that. My friends always say I should do that back home, run for mayor.
You should.
Because like it's stuff like that really affect like how we live, and it starts off with little things, right? So they'll always show you like something going on over here. What was it? Quebec was trying to outlaw praying in public. Yeah. Personally, I don't know what your beliefs are. I'm an atheist, but I don't care if people pray in public. Can you help us fix the freaking housing thing? Thank you very much. When they do stuff like that, like look over here, look over here. And in Canada, it's worse because we have like, people think our politics is boring and we're not doing, but we do just as much. It's just not as bombastic as the States. Yeah. And which is lulls people.
And because then people pay attention to America more, and then they get confused about our issues because they're not watching our news. Yeah. It's like,
I'm guilty of it too.
You gotta watch a little bit of it just so you know what's what.
Like, and it's and even down to if you are people who are listening to this, even though speaking of politics podcast, what really affects you, yes, national politics, what Justin Trudeau's doing, what all those boys are doing, it's mainly boys, are doing is bad. But what really affects you is like municipal politics, right? And you can go to those things, right? So you can go to like your council hearing, you can probably talk to your counselor face to face, yeah, right? And then you can change things there because that's who's gonna actually, or your MLA, because like that's who actually affects your healthcare here in Canada.
Yeah, because the provinces run most of the stuff. Yeah. Like they'll get money from the feds, but they are the ones doing healthcare, education, and other things that are more direct to us.
And really because like it's a race to the bottom because everybody's trying to cut costs because under this mode of production, that's what we do, right? And it's not, everybody's like, capitalism's broken. I'm like, it's not broken. It's working exactly how it's supposed to. Like, it's like,
I don't know. It works really differently though in some countries. Like,
they have like,
I don't think I'd complain about capitalism if I lived in Finland.
Well, yeah, see, it's great to an extent, but then on like, this is just me being like, it might be even be a whataboutism, but even a country like Finland or like IKEA, obviously they only exist because, I want to have a joke, an underclass in the third world. It takes like 50 people to keep us here. Like I shouldn't be able to, and I do it too. I shouldn't be able to go and have like, I think I have like 14 pairs of shoes. Yeah. I shouldn't, because someone else sews my clothes but they don't see their kid, but it's still affecting me.
Yeah.
And that's why I get to have all these social safety nets and all these things and blah blah blah, right? And it's not saying it's and it sucks, which is why they really don't like it. Whenever, if you want to see who's gonna get a coup, but the CIA or whoever person gonna visit them, look at countries. Whenever a country like decides to nationalize their oil, like, or countries like Burkina Faso try to be like, hey France, why are these French mines here? Can we have them back? And they do that. Then all of a sudden, their leader just gets like gone.
Yeah.
I've only noticed sometimes when it messes up, like say, I think it was a year ago, Elon Musk, Bolivia was trying to do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Bolivia, it's crazy because like leftism in like South America is funny because it's like stuff like we should own everything, but we're also like socially conservative, so like no contraceptive because we have like the Pope still here, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
Because here it's like equated with like, if you're a lefty, you probably think like reproductive rights, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And we're not on the same ground. But so they did that, and then the CIA tried to do a coup, but they fucked up, and that's how we figured out about it, because they messed up. Biggest terrorist organization in the world, CIA.
The more you know.
But I'm just a cook.
So how many years have you been doing comedy for?
12 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's funny. 12 years, but like 1 year I did comedy once.
Okay.
But still, it's 12 years. Because like you don't get, people are like, I'm like, I was still.
Yeah. How long have you been really on it?
Well, it's actually been on it 7. Because I tried to do it, but then I was using drugs, and then I stopped using drugs. And then like 6 years, because I've been clean 6.5 years. So doing that.
Congrats.
Yeah.
I think we've been sober around the same time.
You're sober too.
I
Oh yeah,
am.
you told me, yeah.
I think I forget how many years. I'll figure it out.
Do you smoke weed?
I don't.
Oh, yeah, I don't smoke weed.
But
People are always like, do you smoke? I'm like, no. That's.
But I also didn't smoke weed when I was drinking. That makes me very paranoid. But I like
nose beers though. Cocaine.
Oh, yeah.
Nose beers. It's crazy what it does. What it did was like make my life more manageable. Comedy's hard to do, like drinking. You think you'd be good at it, but I don't know. It's hard. Like, not that you say stuff that you wouldn't say. It's just like you'll like kill or you won't kill, or you'll say something to someone, or like just there's a bunch of things. Like, I don't know what it was like for you, but like mornings I'd get the fear because I'm like, who the fuck did I text? What did I say?
Yeah. Every morning is a bad morning.
Yeah.
So much stress.
Like hangover.
You're never rested.
The pain of the hangover is like the least worst thing.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
If it was just pain, I'd be like, oh, okay, I can deal with pain. I can take an Advil, but I can't. Like, Advils didn't get rid of the shame. Yeah, it was, and then yeah. And that first year I did comedy like once a week or twice a week.
Was it helpful?
Yeah, but like also I wouldn't advise anybody who's just getting clean to go and do stand up, because there's some pretty high highs and some pretty low lows.
Yeah, and you're in a bar like all the time.
That was weird because I didn't really.
Because I was sober for years before I was ever in a bar, and then like by the time I did stand up, I'd already like gone slowly, been at a wedding, been out with my friends when they're drinking, and then so when I did stand up, I just had a lot of strength around my sobriety.
Now, can I ask, did you go to like meetings or anything?
I did inpatient rehab. So then when I got out, there was this like weekly meeting that was connected to that, but it was like more of like a check-in than like we weren't doing like steps or anything.
I do. I did 12 steps. So what I did was, I remember I stopped drinking on a Tuesday, partying on a Tuesday, went to a meeting on a Wednesday, and then just went to a meeting every day for the first year and a half.
That's amazing.
And it was just like...
That's so many meetings.
That's a lot. And if I was off work, I'd go to 2 because I go to a nooner. And
oh, shit.
Yeah. And then I would do stand-up sometimes. And at one point I thought I'd stop stand-up because I did this room called The Danger Room. And I remember that no one laughed. no one heckled, no one did anything, and I thought that I wasn't funny anymore. But this is something that will happen too with stand-up and any art. You get to a point because you notice like improvement goes goes like this. It's how does the graph work? It's then it plateaus off, and then you start doing less. It's because you notice. So say what was probably happening at the same time too. You get your first. Have you been doing it 3 years?
2 years.
2 years. So you first 3 months, 4, 6 months, great. Then you hit this thing where you realize I wasn't good enough to realize how new I am at this.
Yeah.
And that can take some people out because they're like, fuck. Then you do it for another 3, 4 years. And then you're going to, I don't know, Mike. But also you're older, so you have like more life experience, which comes as grounded. Like, because have you noticed when you see like a 19-year-old comic, like it's funny, but sometimes like half the people don't care what a 19-year-old thinks, or like you don't even know. Like, and I was when I got clean, I was 25, so it's more myself. And then you get to the point where you realize that you're just gonna have to keep on grinding because you have to you're not good, but you're not bad, and you're not like eye-opening. And I'm trying stuff, but I'm not good enough to try to do the stuff that I'm trying to work. Like it took me years to be able to just be like go on stage and just like and trust like my inner monologue and be like, I can just say that and it'll be funny, or recover from it.
Yeah.
Right. Or go after someone who absolutely tanked and do well, or go after someone who absolutely killed.
Yeah.
That can be hard too. People are always like, and make the room like my own. Right. And I think that happened once I got sober. I realized I could like hit it more. And one of the things I did too was I realized that like I had to like swallow my pride. But I said I wasn't really a part of the Toronto stand-up community as much as I thought I was. So I went and like would just show up at shows even if I wasn't on them and just watch. I would volunteer for stuff. I would do things just to get known that I was there. Right?
Oh, that's really cool.
And then I got also lucky because I have friends back home that do shows and other things, and also the 6 years doing it before. Or was it 6? Yeah, 5.5 years weren't for naught, right? I still had jokes and things, and still knew how jokes worked and stuff like that, right? So I still knew what not to do, and I knew how to be on stage.
Yeah.
Right? But like it was like kind of a hard reset on like comedy. And one of the things, the best thing I've learned from like the program and like a bunch of things is that like I'm not who I am on stage. Like if you bomb, you bomb. It's not like the end. Like I've seen some people get rocked by bombs. It's like it's not you in the same way that you're not your job.
Yeah.
Because it's a job at the end of the day. Like it's, and also one thing that keeps me humble is that like I'm not doing anything new. Like we all know someone who's funny. Like you're like are always like, oh my gosh, it's so hard. I'm like, yes it is, but like it's hard when you don't want to do it. That's where I love it, when I'm like tired. I have to be funny, because anybody can be funny when everything's good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, this like I kind of like hearing that from you, because I think like because I've seen you on stage, and I think some of it I thought was just like, well, he's just good at. Like I think I thought some of your stuff was just natural, like you just walked on a stage and you were like.
And I've also like I also have like some theater training, but like it's things that I do, right? That I want it to seem like that. I want it to seem like I'm telling these jokes for the first time, all of its stuff, right? But like a lot of it's like. The one of the best is hard advice. It's easy advice. It's simple, but it's hard. And it's also this a quote, right? Like Thelonious Monk says, the genius is the person who acts most like themselves, right? Now think all like, who's a musician that you like?
Fiona Apple.
And when you hear Fiona Apple, it's it's her.
Yeah.
Like, or say Jimi Hendrix, you're hearing exactly what Jimi Hendrix wants you to hear. Yeah. There's nothing in between that. Right? Yeah. And that's what I will constantly work on it in stand-up, is for myself to be, I love when I'll be telling a story off stage and they'll be like, this is a bit. I'm like, no, it's just a story. I want them to think, I want myself off stage to be on stage. Yeah. Right? And also there's a practical thing to that. when things get bad on stage, sometimes you've probably seen this. Someone will drop out, and you'll see their character change, and the audience knows that. Have you seen when things fuck up and people like turn into someone else? Or the extent of that is that they become funnier when they're with themselves.
Like I've seen people get frustrated on stage, and then it like suddenly they're hilarious.
Yeah, because they're themselves.
And it's like, obviously when someone's pissed off, you know they're being real because you've lost a little bit of control.
And people want that, right? Especially in such a... And obviously there's caveats to every rule. There's some people that do characters amazing and everything like that.
Yeah.
Right? But... And also one other thing too is
like Robin Williams did like literally characters on stage, but he also seemed like his mania felt very authentic and himself.
Yeah, have you seen that special where he just like improvises like the whole thing?
No.
It's fucked. It's just like holy shit. And it's just like what? And then another thing is too is that I learned to like the jokes I used to tell. I found an old joke book.
Oh no.
And it was hilarious because it was like 22-year-old me. And what was the one of the jokes? It was so stupid. I'm gonna tell it better now than. And also this joke is one of my first like actual bombs. Right? I was just talking. It was back when gluten free was like coming on the radar, and I was in Vancouver at Goldie's Pizza, and I had this joke. There was this adult film actress named Sasha Grey. She now streams.
Oh, I remember her.
Yeah, and I remember being like, what's with gluten free, right? Like people who want gluten free, they're just like ruining something that's already good. Like, and why are they asking? Like, and first of all, it doesn't make sense to the thing. And then I was like, that's like asking, like, you see a good thing, like you see Sasha Grey's tits, and you're like, hey Sasha, are those real? And she's like, oh, they're fake. Oh, I don't want them anymore. And then and they're real. That's the thing. She's like known for her real titties, and I didn't know that because I didn't research. And someone said like the real butt. I'm like, what? And then I dropped out of the thing, and my buddy was filming me at the time, and he's like a good friend. He didn't stop filming me, just like breaking down on stage. Oh gosh.
Do you have the tape of you?
He might still have it.
Oh my god.
Oh, my hairline's better back then. Like, oh.
Fuck.
Yeah, but it's like, I don't know. It's like skateboarding. Like people are like, I don't want to bomb. It's like, you're gonna get on a skateboard, you're gonna wipe out. Like you're gonna bomb.
Yeah.
And also like, I was looking at for my first Just for Laughs showcase. Like I wasn't on, but it was like you get the showcase to get on it, right? And I was looking at it was it was like 5 years ago. No, it was 2018. I don't know. It was time ago. And I remember almost 6 years ago now. And I was looking at it, and like I wouldn't tell. I'm telling the same jokes. I'm better now, but I wasn't. I was looking at this tape, and I'm like, oh, I'm not bad. Like I'm not like, because this was the first time I'd look at something where I'm like, oh, I would see that. Obviously, I'm better now, but that's the crazy thing is it gets to the point where you look at your past work and you're like, oh, it's not awful. It's just I don't do it like that anymore. I was wearing skinny jeans too. It was weird. I'm glad those are over. I might bring them back. I have good legs. And yeah, but it's been fun. And then also went back to that. How did that get wrong? I had a comic. I don't know if Will Fitzpatrick does comedy anymore. If you do comedy anymore, Will, this is your advice. He said, like, you're adopted from the Yukon. Talk about that. Don't make up weird situations. People do that all the time. And that's, I like your grimace joke. I like. But, like, people can tell, right? And, like, or when people make too many magic circles and stuff. And it's just
What's a magic circle?
So, like, you've done it before, right? You say you're playing. You look like you play. And then you remember when you were a kid and, like, in this world,
yeah,
you were playing house.
Yeah.
In that world, it's actually the house.
Yeah.
Right? But then say you could play house and then we go off to space. Now we made a new world.
Yeah.
Right? But on stage, if you do too many of those things, people start losing you. Like I can do an Obama accent on stage, but if I'm Obama, like driving an F1, it's like, no one wants to hear that. Like, it's just like, it's not that they don't want to hear it. It's that they're just maybe you're not. I don't like when people like, if they are subconsciously thinking about something, they're not kind of really laugh because they're thinking about it, right? So like the things that throw me off is when people do facts that are wrong. They'll have a joke that relies on there being a factual thing.
Yeah.
And it's wrong. And I'm like,
yeah,
I'm taken out of it. Like this one person has a joke about it's good. And then he talks about impressionist painters and the impressionist paintings, he says 18th century instead of 19th century. And I'm like, well, that's 100 years too early.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm like, I don't tell anyone, but like, it's just...
I've seen that where like people will get political on stage and I'll be like, but you're like, it's not just like an opinion. Sometimes like people are factually wrong.
Yeah, they're factually wrong.
They're like, they have a thesis that relies on me like thinking something that is just like, but I don't think that. Like,
oh yeah.
Even sometimes people are like complaining about their spouse and it's like, we will hate your wife with you, but you can't just say all women are shit. You have to make us hate her. Like there has to be facts.
Unless you're using, say, the only time I'll use like an all thing is if the fact that it's so ridiculous that I'm saying all.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would
like it's an hyperbole.
Hyperbole. Yeah. It's like, and I know that and they know that. But when people say stuff like that, it's just like, it comes across as like, oh, I think you hate your wife, man. Like, and like, also the things that are easier and harder. Like Cameron Phoenix has this great thing when he's like, new comics, and it's usually men, play with the most dangerous materials. They have like 6 months. I'm going to tackle this. I'm like, write a joke about your name first, man. Like, and because it seems easy, right? It seems easy, but like it's hard to make. Sometimes people, you might get it by accident, but it's hard to make something so volatile wrong. Like I have that child soldiers joke. I tried to make it funny years ago, and it was just like, oh, because this wasn't good enough to write it, right? And that's okay, right? And it also just comes across like, there's this one comic who has this joke about, he's new, about hitting his girlfriend during sex, and then he's scared that he's gonna like it, but then he goes too far, and then everybody's just like, you just want to hit your girlfriend? And it's a classic case of like, dude, just, I know you got to be aware of what you look like and who you are and all these things, right? And there's things I can get away with that other comics can't get away with. And then there's like throwing pretty privilege. Pretty guys can say things that guys that aren't so good looking can't. Like it's everything. Like,
okay, so what about, because I've seen you talk about your own personal life and you're talking about like bad things that have happened and serious things. But it's still like in a bit that is overall funny. How do you do that?
That's funny. So when I do that, I know, because most things, one of my favorite things to do is just like tell someone like the premise of a joke and not tell them what happened. And like the thing, they're like, oh, that sounds awful. But the thing is, I'm looking, how I get people in is the feeling, right? I don't want people necessarily, they don't have to be there. They don't have to be adopted. They don't have to do that. But everybody's felt abandoned. Everybody's felt like they didn't fit in. Everybody's felt that, and if they can get in there and empathize with that, they're gonna come along for like the punchline, right? And also it's one of those things where like I write about those things because I've worked through them for the most part. Yeah. When people try to write, it's tough writing jokes about stuff that you haven't worked through, right? Like I've gone to like therapy. I need to go again. I actually got to email that lady back. It's expensive.
It's crazy.
It's not like
so.
It's
prohibitive.
Yeah,
expensive.
Like $180 an hour. If you're hearing this, it's very fair. Very fair. From your doctorate, it's great. It's great. $180 an hour though. God damn. Yeah. But so I do that, and then sometimes, so it's sad stuff, and I like minding that, and sometimes I pick that because there's something in it that I find ridiculous and funny. Like one of the things, like a thing how I like get mixed up in adoption. That's ridiculous that adults do that to a kid. Like I find that ridiculous. It's
absolutely insane.
But it's
like I have a friend who like came with me to some open mics when I was new to it, and she'll still check in on you because she knows your story. And like, she's like, how's George doing?
I'm like, I'm fine. Like I'm fine. I'm doing better than I ever have. Right? Like, it's like, And there's some things like I'm trying to think if
But sorry, can I just explain that to the audience? So you are a triplet.
I'm a triplet, yes.
And you were born in Africa.
Yes.
And then you guys were adopted by a Canadian family.
Yes.
And when you were on the plane on the way here,
yeah,
they switched you with
a set of twins.
So your biological sisters went to America and you got to Canada with two other girls.
Two other girls, yes.
But you were how old?
I was 2.5, but they were a year younger than me. So the thing is, right, like I knew, and like, because if you ever audience members, you hung out with 2.5-year-old, they're not like writing you theses, but they can tell you what they want and who their siblings are and
yeah.
But I couldn't speak English yet, so that happened, and it's funny. It was left up to the flight attendants, so they just switched the girls, and I always wonder what like their day at home was like when they found out, because like that might you get called into the office for that if someone was like, hey, you know that those kids that
like when did they find out?
A couple months later. My mom like was showing me photos, and I was like, yeah, those are my sisters. These aren't my sisters. My mom also figured out, like, because developmentally, like, there's a big difference between a 2.5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. Like, you can
so they just get like she could see that two of the babies were not really like.
And I wasn't going to them because I just met them too, right? Like it is same age, and now when you see it, it was a little bit of like that white people can't tell black babies apart because when you look at us, we look different. Like we're not, the only thing we have in common, my sisters and I that grew up together, is that we're black. And even then, like we don't look, like you can tell we're different manners. But the crazy thing is my triplet sisters and I, we didn't grow up together, but there's so much like nature where like.
So wait, your mom knew back then, but they didn't get you?
No, because the other family was like attached and all that shit.
So they just kept you away from your sisters?
Well, we would visit like every year or 2 years. I haven't seen them since I was 15. I've FaceTimed.
That seems weird. I don't like this other family.
They're okay. They're okay. The thing is too, right? It's funny because my mom will talk to she went and visited my triplet sisters, and my dad did too. And they say it's like very uncanny valley because like they think every once in a while they'll be like, "Am I talking to George?" No, I'm not.
Oh, because they just have aspects
of me, but they're like very different. They're like to like needlepoint and all this calm stuff, and they're like they don't have any substance abuse issues. They're all just fine. Everything's just great.
Oh shit.
And then the funniest thing, because I've been talking to my biological mother, and it's crazy because like I can see, even though I didn't grow up with her at all, one day I was like, how's it going, Mom? And she was like, George, it is hot. And then she like, you ever see sometimes how like before I do a punchline, I'll like smile and like she does that. And then she's like, but I guess that's why we're black. And I'm like, did I just realize that I tell jokes? Like I thought I was the only person that did that.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh shit, that's funny.
That's amazing.
And it's like one of those things where you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And that's the crazy thing is too, right? Because obviously you grew up with your bio parents,
yeah,
and you could see where everything like as much as you liked it as a teenager, you're like, I'm not my parent, but you're,
yeah.
But then like not, first of all, I'm gonna caveat my parents awesome that I grew up with, but you start realizing that you've missed out on a bunch of stuff, like not growing up with someone who looks like you or having any like, because my sisters that I grew up with, they're twins, so they had someone that looked like them. They had someone.
Yeah.
And they can be like, oh, that person's
the same as me.
The same as me. But like me having like no one like that. And then you finally meet someone and you meet a family member's like, oh shit. Like I'm not, like obviously like, there's people that do things like I do.
Yeah.
And there's people that look like me. There's people that have like my mannerisms. There's people that like laugh like me. People that are like very intense and direct. Am I intense? People say I'm intense. Yeah, I will say I'm intense and direct. Because in my head, I'm like, no, I'm pretty, and like me, which is amazing and stuff. Because like it's one of those things where I didn't think I'd ever get to see that, right? And then like I do, and then it's a wealth of material.
Yeah,
it's a wealth.
Every comedian has like some kind of trauma they're indebted to.
Oh, and the thing is too, sometimes I'll say stuff, I'll tell people stuff like I'll just mention something offhand and people are like, what? I'm like, oh yeah, I guess. Cause like it's my life. So it's like, it seems like it's normal, even though it's not.
Yeah.
It's like an Oprah level story.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
How old were you when you met your bio mom again?
When when was the first time I phoned her? I must have been like 10, but then I think I was 27. So that's like when I first like being in contact, and now it's like WhatsApp.
How old is she?
1954, so 70. Yeah. So 70 years old. She's
And do you have other siblings
yeah,
back
I do.
in Africa?
So I have a sister that's like 8 years older than me, a brother that's I think 10 years older than me, and then there's the three of us, and then I have a brother that's like 22.
What country are they in?
Sierra Leone. It's so funny. My mom was like, I just wanted a girl. I got triplets. I'm just like, I just wanted a girl, because we're all like evenly spaced, right? We're like 2 to 8 years later, like spaced, like not like none of us are Irish kids that just boom, like it's I can only imagine then, like she's like 5'2", triplets, like, so that's the thing that's crazy. It's like, and then like the war popped off. It's just like, and it's one of those things, because like Sierra Leone had its like civil war in the 90s, and that's why we came over here, because my mom was like, I want these kids to have like a better life, right? And so like, and then I can only imagine what that was like giving like away your 3 kids, like, and then 2.5. So like we've been with, and it's just enough that like people are like, do you remember anything? No, but like there's still some things where I'm like, like people like leaving, and I know there's a bunch of reasons. Probably the way I am is from that like first 2.5 years of life, right? And it's also another thing too, right? Like I'm glad I reconnected with her now, because I know like it's crazy how it works. You don't get like closure by meeting your birth parent. It doesn't work. It's not a movie. Yeah. It doesn't fix you. It doesn't like, it puts things in context. Yeah. Right? And stuff, which helps, but it's not gonna fix me. And I do plan to go back to Africa, but I know that it won't fix me. It's not gonna be
so
this.
You haven't been over at all.
No.
Since you were a baby.
No. And I know it's not like none of that, like things like that don't fix you. It's like, yeah. But they help you heal, but doesn't fix you, which is the difference. Like,
is the country peaceful now?
Yeah. It's just being like gutted by like neoliberal policies and shit in the World Bank. Those good guys in the World Bank, and just that infrastructure because of like British colonialism. That's why my name's George, by the way.
My brother's name is also George.
Are you Greek?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's how we get so many Georges.
Yeah, Georges, and then also,
I guess it came back now. When I was growing up, all the Georges I met were Greek.
Yeah.
But now it's kind of just come back as a
Prince
trendy.
George.
Yeah.
Yeah. It usually happens like, and then like my mom's name's Charlotte, but there's a Queen Charlotte, an older Queen Charlotte, and then now there's a Princess Charlotte. So there's gonna be more Charlottes. It's always funny when I meet someone named Charlotte, because you don't usually say your parents' name. And you're like, oh yeah, I guess. Yeah. So one time, this is crazy. I was in Croatia. I was clubbing and I made out with this chick on the dance floor. And she's like, "What's your name?" And she's like, "Charlotte." I'm like, because it's also not a common name. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I once fell for a guy named Peter, which is my dad's name, and I tried to let it pass because I was like, I don't want to. Yeah. And he had a beard, which I didn't like, and I was like, I'm gonna avoid this. But
it's funny how that could happen. Like, but then at one point, it's a new thing because like this is springboarding, but like there's a reason why like you ever like a regnal name, so like they'll be like. It'd be a King John, but it'd be like John the this, because there's so many Johns. They have to give you like Peter this, like there's a king called Peter the Simple. Nothing against that. but like, so people had the same names, and it wasn't weird to date someone with your dad. Also, you didn't really date I guess that's the thing that I don't know much about. I would love someone's done a doctorate on the history of like dating culture. It's a whole wealth of things. Some anthropologists like because all this stuff of like dating now versus 10 years ago is I can feel it. I didn't really date. I kind of just partied, but like but like now is just like whoa. I think the illusion of choice is what's fucked up.
You think there isn't
an illusion of choice
in dating?
Yeah, because I'm actually off the apps. I've been off the apps for like 3 months now. I'm pretty happy with that. But like when my parents met each other in Hinton, Alberta, they had to be reasonably sure like there might be other people out there, but is there? Now we could just be like boop 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 boop. Yeah, which I think is bad because like people are just treating people like commodities.
Oh, yeah, because people don't put enough effort into things.
Yeah.
I do kind of have a thing with dating, like people overthink it, like it is kind of.
Okay, it's just like go about. I learned this. If it's a good hang with your homie, it'd be a good date. That's what it is. You're just hanging out, like it's a relationship. Everybody's like, "Oh my god, no!" It's just a relationship with the person. Like at the end of the day, like it's just a relationship with the person. Like don't.
Do you think you could? I know like arranged marriage is part of like patriarchal stuff, but if it was just that your parents decided, do you think you could handle a culture like that?
I think I could, but then again, it would be the normal. But then who would I get arranged to? Like I'm a stand-up comic cook. Like I'm not bringing in a lot of high stock here, right? Like.
But maybe that would factor into it. It'd be like, well, he's artistic and he's bringing these sorts of things to the relationship, and so we'll pair him up with someone with like a corporate job and she's bringing benefits.
I would do that. I would do that now. Like, like, oh my gosh, if someone like, I would do that now. I can cook at home. I can garden. I can do all the stuff. But like,
yeah, you have so many skills. You'd be an amazing wife. Like if you were a girl, you'd crush.
I'd be
right?
I have a bit of a mouth on me though. But like, just kidding. But it's funny that those things, right? And I have no problem with dating people that make more money than me because most people I've dated make more money than me. And it's okay. I also don't like chase money and like I like getting things, but I don't like. It's never been a goal. My goal in stand up is to do more stand up. It's not like I don't.
See, this is why you need like a corporate wife because she'll make sure. You monetize things and don't miss out on.
Well, I have an agent now.
Okay. So you don't need a wife because your agent's doing it.
And then things like I do stuff like that, right? Like if like all my needs were taken care of and like I could travel and ski, I would do comedy for free. Like I don't like. It's not like it's. Yeah, I would do comedy for free. I
think you'd do well as a trophy husband.
That'd be my second album.
He's already good at skiing. Come on.
I can do all the things. Like I'm good enough. I'm very good at cocktail parties. I have this weird like charm. I don't know what it is. I just know I have it. It's just yeah. Oh god, being a trophy husband. I'm also in shape.
Gymnastics, dancing, skateboarding.
Yeah, trophy husbands. It's happened. I think people get trophy husbands. But could you do an arranged marriage? Have you been married?
I have not been married. I don't know that I could do any marriage.
That's cool too.
I'm easily annoyed by other people. But no, I think I really feel like I would have to pick the person.
Now, could you marry? But then the thing, marriage is also just it's really about
But I'm also bad at being on dates with people. I feel like I would do best in a culture where people date in groups, or I should just date in a group somehow.
Have you heard of this? I ran into these people, and they were doing this thing that happens in Toronto where a bunch of strangers just meet up and go to a dinner and then go to a bar afterwards.
That sounds good. I want to do that.
He works with Himanshu, the guy that did it. He's like, yeah, some people were doing comedy at my work, and I'm like, I probably know them. And
Yeah.
I'm like, yep, I'm Hansi Patel. And I'm like, his name is Vlad. He moved to Canada when he was 2 from Russia. I just remember shit like that.
Okay. We have to track this guy down and find out about this dating situation.
He's single. I'm not going to start setting you up.
Oh, you want me to date Vlad?
He's bald, though. Is that such a big thing?
Having a name as cool as Vlad might tip. You know what I mean?
Is that a thing as much as, like, are you guys just poking fun at us?
I feel like the older you get, the less you care what men look like.
Yeah.
And women are already lower in it than men.
Yeah.
In terms of how much.
Age is, I can only imagine what age is like for, like, right now, as, like, a dude, it's so much better being, because the way it works, having things than not having things for other men to respect. I watched my dad at a show, because he's just an older man, just tell a bunch of young men just to get up and move. And they did it. I'm like, what the fuck? I mean, he was just like, can you guys move? My family's coming here. And they just, like, didn't question him. And there's a bunch of white kids. Like, you can't do that when you're a 22-year-old guy.
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah.
It's
you want the authority of
but you
age.
don't, but you don't, you also make more money and stuff, and, like, it's tough being like and then when you're 22, like, all the women that are 22 aren't dating 22-year-old guys, so you turn on Jordan Peterson podcast. No, I'm just kidding. Never that way. So blaming yourself. No. People are like, it's tough. Well, then it's probably always been tough. Everybody thinks, like, and then there's also, like, people are like, I wish it was back in the day. Really, when you couldn't
I would not even. No.
Not even a chance. I'm a black dude. You're a woman. Like, we're not doing this.
I don't want to go back 5 years. I want to go 20 years into the future.
20 years in the future. How do 20 years in the future? Fuck, I'm gonna be 52.
No, I meant in a time machine.
Oh.
Okay, we went way over.
Yeah.
But is there anything you want to plug before we?
Industry night, backroom comedy, 10 p.m.
every Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. And fourth Sunday of every month, also at Backroom, is not Sunday.
Monday.
Fourth Monday of every month is my show, Funny Bitches,
with Karen Mitches,
which George has hosted.
Yeah, it's a great show. You should go. It's funny. Those bitches are funny.
Thanks for coming on, George.
No problem.